I warned them the past would rise again, but
My blood is pure. My legacy is ancient.
I carry the blood of both monsters.
Protect the throne built on mine.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The Underworld franchise's enduring popularity is as much a product of its narrative depth and visual style as it is of the passionate fanbase that has grown around it over the past 2 decades. Fans have been instrumental in keeping the franchise alive in public discourse, particularly following the release of Blood Wars in 2016. Social media platforms, fan forums, and video-sharing sites have provided spaces where enthusiasts can share theories, artwork, fan fiction, and concept trailers imagining what the next chapter, Underworld 6, might entail. These fan creations often explore unresolved plot threads from previous films, including the future of Selene and Michael, the fate of hybrid generations, and the potential resurgence of ancient vampire factions. The level of engagement demonstrates not only the appeal of the franchise's gothic, action-packed aesthetic but also the resonance of its core themes, loyalty, identity, morality, and the consequences of war, across diverse audiences worldwide. One notable aspect of fan engagement is the proliferation of AI-generated trailers, which have contributed both to excitement and confusion. These trailers often present polished visual sequences depicting Selene battling new adversaries, hybrid characters exhibiting extraordinary powers, and vampire and Lycan factions engaged in elaborate conflicts. While visually compelling, these materials are not official productions, they are creative reinterpretations produced by enthusiasts using modern AI technology. The realism of these trailers has led some viewers to mistakenly believe that Underworld 6 is already in production. Industry analysts have pointed out that while these fan-made trailers showcase impressive technical skill and narrative creativity, they are speculative, and none of the scenarios depicted have been confirmed by Screen Gems or Sony Pictures. Nevertheless, the widespread attention these creations receive underscores the franchise's cultural significance and the fervor with which audiences desire the continuation of the series. Culturally, the Underworld series has contributed to the popularization of strong, complex female protagonists within action-oriented dark fantasy settings. Selene's character, in particular, stands out as a rare example of a female lead who combines physical prowess, strategic intelligence, and emotional depth. Her narrative arc, which intertwines themes of vengeance, loyalty, love, and self-discovery, has influenced subsequent portrayals of women in similar genres, establishing a template for multidimensional female characters in supernatural action films. The series' blending of gothic aesthetics, cutting-edge visual effects, and choreography has also set a standard for world-building and atmosphere, influencing how contemporary filmmakers approach supernatural narratives. By combining serialized storytelling with a rich mythology, the Underworld films have demonstrated that action horror franchises can maintain audience interest across multiple installments without sacrificing narrative complexity or character development. From a cinematic perspective, the franchise has consistently pushed the boundaries of production design and action choreography. The films employ a distinct visual palette characterized by muted tones, high contrast lighting, and an emphasis on shadows, which enhances the gothic atmosphere and underscores the thematic tension between light and darkness. Combat sequences are meticulously choreographed, often blending martial arts, acrobatics, and wire work to create dynamic, visually engaging battles between vampires, Lycans, and hybrids. This combination of stylistic visual storytelling and kinetic action has become a hallmark of the franchise, influencing subsequent supernatural action films and solidifying the series' reputation for innovation within its genre. The emphasis on both narrative and visual consistency across films has allowed Underworld to cultivate a cohesive universe that supports expansive storytelling, including prequels, sequels, and speculative future installments. In terms of narrative speculation for Underworld 6, numerous fan theories explore the potential continuation of unresolved storylines and the expansion of the franchise's mythology. One prevalent theory suggests that Underworld 6 could focus on the rise of previously dormant vampire bloodlines, whose existence has been hidden for centuries. These ancient vampires, often depicted as possessing unparalleled strength and cunning, would seek to assert dominance over both vampires and Lycans, challenging Selene's leadership and forcing her to confront new moral and strategic dilemmas. Another popular theory centers on hybrid characters, offspring of vampires and Lycans, whose abilities could surpass those of either species. These hybrids might become central figures, representing both hope and danger, and their emergence could destabilize the fragile balance established in Blood Wars. Such narratives offer opportunities to explore themes of evolution, coexistence, and the ethical implications of blending species and powers in a world already defined by secrecy and conflict. Political intrigue is also frequently emphasized in speculative plots for Underworld 6. Vampire elders, who traditionally wield absolute authority, could face challenges from younger factions seeking to modernize or revolutionize the hierarchy. Similarly, Lycan communities might contend with leadership struggles, internal dissent, or the threat of hybrid insurgencies. This interplay of power dynamics would create a rich, multi-layered narrative, highlighting the franchise's ongoing interest in leadership, morality, and the consequences of historical grievances. The inclusion of mystical or supernatural artifacts, such as the rumored Crimson Blood, could further intensify these conflicts, providing both a symbolic and literal source of power whose control determines the outcome of interspecies warfare. These narrative possibilities demonstrate the depth and adaptability of the Underworld universe, allowing for both high-stakes action and intricate storytelling. Fan speculation also extends to potential character development arcs, particularly for Selene and Michael. In many envisioned scenarios, Selene would grapple with the responsibilities of guiding new generations of vampires, hybrids, or hybrid allies while contending with the resurgence of enemies who threaten the fragile peace. Michael, if included, might serve as both a moral compass and a bridge between species, exemplifying the ongoing tension between human empathy and supernatural capability. New characters, often invented in fan lore, would serve as catalysts for narrative exploration, introducing new conflicts, alliances, and ethical questions. These speculative arcs emphasize the enduring relevance of the franchise's central themes: identity, loyalty, love, and the consequences of power. By projecting these themes into future storylines, fans maintain a continuous dialogue with the franchise, ensuring its continued cultural resonance even in the absence of an official sequel. The broader cultural impact of the Underworld series extends beyond fan engagement. Its influence is evident in the proliferation of supernatural action films, television series, and video games that draw inspiration from its visual style, character archetypes, and thematic complexity. The franchise demonstrates that dark fantasy action can achieve commercial success without sacrificing narrative depth, providing a model for balancing spectacle with storytelling. Its emphasis on serialized mythology, multidimensional characters, and intricate factional politics has contributed to a shift in audience expectations, fostering appreciation for interconnected narrative worlds and long-term character development. This cultural footprint underscores the franchise's significance as more than entertainment. It represents a case study in building sustainable, immersive narrative universes capable of sustaining fan interest over decades. The potential for Underworld 6 to expand the franchise into new media formats further illustrates its adaptability. Beyond feature films, the universe could be explored through serialized television adaptations, streaming series, or graphic novels, providing opportunities to delve into the histories of secondary characters, unexplored vampire and Lycan factions, or the consequences of hybrid evolution. Video game adaptations could allow players to immerse themselves directly in the vampire-Lycan conflict, exploring strategic combat, political alliances, and moral choices. Such transmedia storytelling would not only satisfy existing fans but also attract new audiences, demonstrating the versatility and enduring appeal of the Underworld universe. These possibilities reflect broader trends in contemporary media, where franchises leverage multiple platforms to expand their narratives and maintain audience engagement over time. Finally, the discussion of Underworld 6 must acknowledge the challenges inherent in transitioning from speculation to official production. While fan enthusiasm and speculative content highlight the franchise's ongoing relevance, studios face logistical, creative, and market-driven considerations when developing a sequel. Casting decisions, script approval, budgeting, visual effects requirements, and market timing all influence whether a project moves from concept to production. Additionally, the presence of AI-generated fan content complicates public perception, as audiences may conflate speculative trailers with official announcements. Navigating these challenges requires careful management by production companies to ensure that the franchise maintains its narrative integrity, visual style, and audience trust. The complexity of these considerations underscores why, despite the persistent popularity of the franchise, Underworld 6 has remained unconfirmed for nearly a decade. The world-building of the Underworld franchise is one of its most compelling aspects, providing a richly layered mythology that underpins the ongoing conflict between vampires and Lycans. From the very first film, it becomes clear that the supernatural society is highly stratified, governed by strict hierarchies, ancient traditions, and a constant struggle for dominance. Vampires, for example, are organized under a rigid system of elders and leaders who dictate law, enforce loyalty, and maintain the secrecy necessary for survival among humans. At the top of this hierarchy are the vampire elders, such as Victor, Amelia, and Marcus, whose centuries of life have provided them with unparalleled knowledge, power, and political influence. These elders often operate in morally ambiguous ways, maintaining order and control through fear, manipulation, and, when necessary, lethal force. The vampire hierarchy emphasizes purity of bloodlines, with purebloods occupying the highest echelon and ordinary vampires forming the lower tiers of society. This strict social structure shapes interactions, alliances, and rivalries, making loyalty and lineage critical to survival. Lycans, by contrast, operate within a different but equally complex system. Initially depicted as subjugated and hunted by vampires, Lycans develop a hierarchical society that values strength, cunning, and adaptability. Leaders like Lucian emerge not only through physical prowess but also through their capacity to inspire loyalty and challenge the oppressive structures imposed by the vampires. Lycan society, although less rigidly codified than the vampire order, reflects principles of pack hierarchy, familial loyalty, and the recognition of individual power. Over time, Lycans evolve from secretive, hunted creatures into organized forces capable of strategizing, rebelling, and exerting significant influence over supernatural events. The interplay between Lycan rebellion and vampire authoritarianism establishes the central tension that drives much of the franchise, providing fertile ground for exploring themes of freedom, justice, and the ethical implications of power. A key element of Underworld's mythology is the concept of hybridization, which introduces new layers of complexity to the established hierarchies. Hybrids, born from the intermingling of vampire and Lycan bloodlines, possess attributes from both species, including enhanced strength, agility, regenerative capabilities, and resilience. Their emergence challenges the traditional balance of power, as hybrids can potentially surpass both vampires and Lycans in combat ability and strategic influence. Hybrids also raise profound ethical questions within the narrative. Should their creation be considered an unnatural violation of species boundaries, or a potential pathway to coexistence and unity? The existence of hybrids forces both vampires and Lycans to confront deeply ingrained prejudices and adapt to rapidly evolving dynamics, often resulting in shifting alliances, betrayals, and unforeseen conflicts. In fan speculation about Underworld 6, hybrids are frequently imagined as central figures, representing the potential for both reconciliation and further chaos in the vampire Lycan world. The origins of vampires and Lycans, as explored through flashbacks and prequels, add further depth to the franchise's mythology. Vampires are depicted as ancient beings whose longevity allows them to accumulate vast knowledge and wield considerable supernatural powers. Their creation is often linked to themes of divine or mystical intervention, secret alchemical practices, or the exploitation of powerful bloodlines, depending on interpretations within the films. Lycans, in turn, emerge as a species initially enslaved or marginalized, whose evolutionary trajectory is defined by rebellion, survival instincts, and adaptability. The historical antagonism between vampires and Lycans is thus rooted not only in immediate conflicts but also in centuries of social, political, and personal grievances, creating a layered narrative that combines action with rich backstory. These origins inform the motivations of key characters, contextualize ongoing conflicts, and provide a narrative framework for understanding the stakes of the franchise's supernatural wars. Vampire and Lycan powers are another critical aspect of Underworld's world building. Vampires possess enhanced physical capabilities, accelerated healing, heightened senses, and prolonged lifespans, with purebloods exhibiting extraordinary mastery of combat and magical abilities. Lycans, similarly, demonstrate superior strength, agility, regeneration, and the capacity to transform into powerful wolf-like forms. Both species exhibit specialized skills that are influenced by lineage, training, and individual aptitude. The interplay of these abilities shapes the tactical and narrative strategies within the films, as characters employ combat techniques, stealth, and supernatural abilities to gain advantage over their adversaries. In Underworld 6 speculation, the evolution of powers is often imagined to include hybrids with unprecedented capabilities, potentially altering the dynamics of the vampire-Lycan conflict and creating narrative opportunities for new forms of warfare, political intrigue, and moral dilemmas. The social customs, rituals, and politics of the Underworld universe further enrich its mythology. Vampires adhere to strict codes of conduct regarding bloodlines, hierarchy, and the concealment of their existence from humans. Rituals of initiation, combat training, and enforcement of loyalty reinforce societal structure and maintain order. Lycans, while less formalized, exhibit their own traditions surrounding pack loyalty, leadership succession, and the recognition of individual prowess. Political intrigue within both species often involves manipulation, espionage, assassination, and strategic alliances, emphasizing the moral complexity of the franchise's universe. The interplay of these customs creates a sense of realism and depth, providing a context in which characters' decisions carry significant consequences and reflect broader societal dynamics. Geography and the setting also play a critical role in the franchise's world building. The Underworld films frequently depict shadowed, Gothic urban environments juxtaposed with secluded, natural spaces that serve as Lycan hideouts or vampire strongholds. These contrasting settings emphasize the duality of the franchise's universe, the vampire's structured, controlled environment versus the Lycan's more organic, adaptive spaces. Architectural elements, lighting, and cinematography reinforce mood, tone, and narrative emphasis, creating immersive visual landscapes that enhance both action sequences and character development. The franchise's distinctive aesthetic, combining dark Gothic motifs with high-tech elements, contributes to its identity, signaling to the audience the supernatural stakes and the persistent tension between order and chaos. In addition to physical and social hierarchies, the franchise explores moral and ethical hierarchies, often questioning the nature of justice, loyalty, and the value of life in an immortal context. Vampires, despite their sophistication and intelligence, frequently engage in morally ambiguous actions, prioritizing species survival and power consolidation over ethical considerations. Lycans, although portrayed sympathetically in prequels and certain sequels, navigate the tension between rebellion and vengeance, illustrating that moral clarity is rarely absolute in this universe. These ethical complexities deepen character motivations, heighten narrative tension, and provide fertile ground for philosophical reflection within the context of action-driven storytelling. They also establish a thematic continuity that extends into fan speculation about Underworld 6, where new characters and factions would likely confront similarly ambiguous moral landscapes. The mythology further incorporates artifacts, historical records, and ancient secrets that influence current conflicts. Objects of power, hidden lineages, and lost knowledge often drive plot developments, providing characters with motivation, advantage, or danger. These elements contribute to the sense of depth and longevity within the franchise, suggesting a world with a history that extends far beyond the immediate narrative. In speculative scenarios for Underworld 6, the discovery or reawakening of such artifacts is imagined to catalyze major plot developments, potentially triggering the resurgence of dormant factions, revealing hidden powers, or redefining alliances. This integration of historical and mystical elements with action and character development reinforces the franchise's identity as a complex, immersive supernatural universe. Finally, the interplay of mythology, hierarchy, and character development establishes a framework for understanding both confirmed narratives and speculative extensions, such as Underworld 6. By combining detailed social structures, supernatural abilities, moral complexity, and visual storytelling, the franchise has created a universe that invites both analysis and imagination. Fans' speculation about a sixth installment reflects an engagement with these layers of world-building, envisioning new conflicts, alliances, and ethical dilemmas that extend the rich mythology of vampires, Lycans, and hybrids. This intricate universe, grounded in consistent rules yet allowing for narrative expansion, ensures that even in the absence of official confirmation, discussions about Underworld 6 remain compelling, meaningful, and rooted in the franchise's established canon. In envisioning the events of Underworld 6, one can imagine the film opening in a shadowed, post-Blood Wars landscape, where vampire estates lie partially in ruins, and Lycans, though diminished in numbers, regroup in secret strongholds. The uneasy peace achieved in prior conflicts is fragile, with rumors of a mysterious vampire faction circulating through the underworld. These vampires, perhaps remnants of an ancient bloodline thought extinct, move with deliberate precision, seeking to reclaim power and enforce a new hierarchy. The camera would likely linger on dark, Gothic corridors of vampire citadels, highlighting both the elegance and menace of this society, while juxtaposing the wild, untamed forests or industrial ruins where Lycans secretly train for retaliation. Selene, central to the narrative, might be depicted as a vigilant guardian, balancing her loyalty to remaining vampires with concern for emerging hybrids. Her movements, precise and lethal, would emphasize the seasoned warrior she has become, yet moments of introspection could reveal the toll of centuries-long conflict on her psyche. Fans speculate that she could act as both a strategist and mentor, guiding younger characters, including Eve or new hybrid protagonists, through the treacherous web of supernatural politics. Her interactions with these characters would explore trust, legacy, and the consequences of violence, grounding the high-octane action in emotional resonance. The antagonist forces could be characterized by their combination of ancient tradition and ruthless ambition. A pure-blood vampire queen, rumored in fan lore, might lead this faction, commanding loyalty through both fear and respect. Her motivation could stem from a desire to restore pure vampire dominance, punishing those who deviated from strict codes or allied with Lycans and hybrids. Dramatic confrontations between her and Selene would likely serve as narrative and visual highlights, combining intricate combat choreography with intense emotional stakes. The Queen's forces might include elite vampire warriors, each with unique abilities, reflecting centuries of experience and mastery over supernatural powers. Lycans in Underworld 6 could be depicted as more organized than in prior installments, having evolved from their traditional roles as rebels to strategic players in the supernatural chessboard. Fan speculation suggests that rogue Lycans, possibly descendants of Lucian or other legendary figures, could rise to challenge both vampires and hybrids. These Lycans would embody both physical prowess and strategic cunning, creating tense confrontations and moral dilemmas. Perhaps some Lycans would attempt alliances with Selene, forming temporary pacts to counter the emerging vampire threat, highlighting the recurring theme of necessity versus ideology. Such dynamics would deepen the narrative complexity while providing opportunities for visually dramatic action sequences. Hybrids, central to the speculative plot, would represent a convergence of vampire and Lycan traits, combining enhanced speed, strength, and agility with moral ambiguity. They could serve as unpredictable forces, challenging both traditional vampires and Lycans, while struggling with their own identity and purpose. Scenes could depict hybrids in moments of internal conflict, their dual nature reflected in both physical abilities and emotional turmoil. Such characters could be crucial to the resolution of the story, either tipping the balance in favor of Selene and her allies or exacerbating the chaos created by the antagonist faction. Visually, Underworld 6 could continue the franchise's signature aesthetic, characterized by deep shadows, high contrast, and striking use of color to differentiate factions and moods. Vampire interiors might shimmer with cold elegance, incorporating Gothic architecture, polished surfaces, and ceremonial spaces. Lycan habitats could contrast this with raw, organic textures, dense forests, caves, or ruined industrial sites emphasizing survival and primal energy. Action sequences could exploit these environments, incorporating verticality, stealth, and fluid combat choreography, allowing characters to move seamlessly between shadows and open spaces, creating a sense of kinetic energy and suspense. Fan-created speculation further envisions key sequences that test the moral and emotional boundaries of the characters. Selene might be forced to confront allies who betray her, challenging her notions of loyalty and justice. A new generation of vampires and hybrids could struggle to find their place amidst the chaos, questioning whether they should perpetuate old wars or forge new paths. Hypothetical battles might involve strategic use of supernatural abilities, vampire speed, Lycan strength, hybrid adaptability, culminating in dramatic, large-scale confrontations that blend spectacle with character-driven tension. Emotional stakes, such as protecting innocent humans or preventing the exploitation of hybrids, would heighten the narrative resonance, ensuring that action is always tied to story and character development. The political and social structures within the Underworld universe could be explored more deeply than in previous installments. Vampire councils, Lycans tribal networks, and hybrid communities might each have their own agendas, codes, and traditions. Internal dissent, coups, and clandestine plots could drive subplots, providing suspense and narrative layering. For instance, some vampires may advocate for isolation and preservation of traditional hierarchies, while others push for collaboration or even coexistence with Lycans and hybrids. These conflicting ideologies would create both dramatic tension and thematic depth, reflecting the real-world complexities of power, governance, and ethical decision-making. The narrative could also introduce artifacts or ancient rituals tied to vampire or Lycan history, adding a mythic dimension to the story. Such elements could serve as MacGuffins, motivating characters to undertake dangerous quests or navigate political intrigue. Rumors suggest that bloodlines, hidden relics, or lost knowledge could play a pivotal role, providing both narrative propulsion and opportunities for visually spectacular sequences. These elements, woven into the emotional and action-driven narrative, would reinforce the franchise's identity as a fusion of Gothic myth, supernatural lore, and high-intensity action. Romantic or interpersonal subplots might further humanize the story, even amidst epic battles and supernatural stakes. Fans speculate that interactions between vampires, Lycans, and hybrids could explore trust, forbidden attraction, and the personal cost of war. Such elements would deepen audience engagement, offering moments of vulnerability and introspection amidst a visually and kinetically intense narrative. Selene's role as both a warrior and potential maternal figure could anchor these subplots, reflecting her personal evolution and the generational stakes of the conflict. Within the Underworld universe, characters are the lifeblood of the narrative, driving both action and emotional resonance. At the center is Selene, whose journey is as much internal as it is external. From her introduction in the first film as a disciplined, almost merciless death dealer, Selene evolves into a multifaceted protagonist, embodying strength, vulnerability, and moral complexity. Her combat abilities, supernatural reflexes, and longevity are matched by a deeply personal motivation, the protection of those she loves and the pursuit of justice in a world defined by betrayal and war. In fan speculation surrounding Underworld 6, Selene is envisioned confronting new threats that challenge both her physical prowess and her ethical compass. These threats often include ancient factions seeking to dominate or annihilate both vampire and Lycan populations, forcing Selene to navigate political intrigue, moral dilemmas, and the weight of her own legacy. Selene's daughter, Eve, plays an increasingly significant role in fan-generated storylines. Introduced in Underworld, Awakening, Eve is a hybrid of vampire and Lycan, representing a bridge between warring species and the potential for a new order within the supernatural hierarchy. In speculative narratives, Eve's abilities are often depicted as surpassing those of either species alone, positioning her as a central figure in the next phase of the vampire-Lycan conflict. Her character explores themes of inheritance, identity, and responsibility, as she grapples with the expectations of her lineage and the broader consequences of her existence. The potential dynamics between mother and daughter are a rich narrative vein, providing emotional depth and reinforcing the franchise's recurring motif of family and legacy amidst chaos and violence. Lucian, the original Lycan leader from Rise of the Lycans, serves as an archetype of rebellion and moral complexity. His character is defined by his struggle against oppression, his devotion to his kind, and the sacrifices he makes in pursuit of freedom. While Lucian's canonical storyline concludes in the prequel, fan theories for Underworld 6 often resurrect his legacy, either through descendants, spiritual echoes, or ideological influence. His presence in speculative narratives underscores the cyclical nature of conflict within the Underworld universe, highlighting that the struggle between vampire and Lycan is not confined to individual lifespans but spans generations, bloodlines, and ideologies. Vampire elders such as Victor, Amelia, and Marcus Corvinus are pivotal to the series' mythology. They embody the political intricacies of vampire society, where power, tradition, and ambition are interwoven with personal vendettas and ancient grudges. Marcus, as the first immortal hybrid of vampire and Lycan lineage, exemplifies the series' fascination with genetic legacy, immortality, and the consequences of unrestrained power. In fan speculations, these elders, or their ideological successors, are often central to Underworld 6, presenting both adversarial and mentorship roles, and driving plotlines that explore the moral and political complexities of immortal life. These characters are more than antagonists or allies, they are embodiments of the franchise's core themes, the tension between tradition and change, loyalty and betrayal, and the cost of power over centuries. The mythology of the Underworld universe is intricate, with vampires and Lycans bound by codes, rituals, and hierarchies. Vampire society is stratified, with elder councils wielding ultimate authority, often dictating the fate of individuals and covens. Bloodlines carry both power and responsibility, with lineage determining combat ability, political influence, and social status. Lycans, by contrast, are structured around survival, pack hierarchy, and rebellion against vampire dominance. Their transformation into powerful, wolf-like forms serves as both a metaphor for their inner strength and a tangible advantage in combat, creating a dramatic visual and thematic contrast with vampires. Fan speculations often expand upon these systems, introducing secret factions, ancient bloodlines, or hybrid clans that challenge the established order and provide fertile ground for new conflicts in Underworld 6. Supernatural abilities in the franchise are central to character identity and narrative tension. Vampires possess heightened strength, agility, accelerated healing, and longevity, often coupled with advanced combat training and strategic intelligence. Lycans are defined by their raw power, endurance, and animalistic instincts, which, when coupled with pack coordination, make them formidable adversaries. Hybrids, as represented by Michael Corvin and Eve, combine the strengths of both species while introducing new abilities, unpredictable traits, and potential vulnerabilities. In fan-theorized narratives, these hybrids often serve as catalysts for plot development, challenging traditional hierarchies, forcing alliances, and compelling characters like Selene to re-evaluate their moral and strategic priorities. The interplay between these abilities and narrative stakes forms the core of action sequences within the franchise. Combat is not merely physical, it is a manifestation of strategy, morality, and the consequences of immortality. Each encounter, whether between vampire and Lycan or against a hybrid, reflects character motivations, historical grievances, and evolving allegiances. Fan speculation for Underworld 6 often envisions larger, more elaborate battles, incorporating environmental advantages, tactical maneuvers, and supernatural phenomena that expand the scope of the cinematic universe. These imagined sequences preserve the franchise's commitment to visually stunning action while pushing the boundaries of what characters can achieve within their established powers. Beyond individual characters, Underworld thrives on its thematic richness. Immortality, for example, is both a blessing and a curse. Characters experience centuries of conflict, witnessing the rise and fall of allies and enemies alike, leading to existential contemplation and moral fatigue. Betrayal and loyalty are recurring motifs, often manifesting in unexpected plot twists that challenge audience expectations. Power struggles, whether political, personal, or supernatural, drive narrative momentum, compelling characters to navigate ethical dilemmas, reconcile with past actions, and confront the consequences of their choices. These themes are amplified in speculative Underworld 6 narratives, which imagine the escalation of existing conflicts, the emergence of new threats, and the exploration of uncharted moral territory. Fan-generated storylines often explore new mythological elements, including ancient vampire sects, Lycan cults, or hybrid conspiracies that seek to disrupt the fragile balance established in previous films. These narratives speculate on long-hidden secrets, lost artifacts, or genetic anomalies that could tip the scales in favor of one faction, presenting opportunities for both dramatic tension and thematic exploration. Such speculation demonstrates the depth of engagement within the fan community, highlighting the franchise's capacity to inspire creativity and discourse. The potential for Underworld 6 to expand the franchise lies not only in narrative innovation but also in its visual storytelling. Fans imagine intricate settings that fuse Gothic architecture, subterranean layers, urban dystopias, and mist-shrouded landscapes, creating immersive environments that enhance both horror and action. Cinematography, lighting, and special effects are anticipated to evolve, integrating new technologies while preserving the franchise's signature style. These speculative visual strategies aim to deepen audience immersion, heighten suspense, and maintain the atmospheric consistency that distinguishes Underworld from other action horror properties. Cultural engagement with Underworld 6 speculation reflects the franchise's enduring impact. Online communities actively debate character motivations, theorize plot directions, and generate fan content ranging from trailers to digital art. Memes, discussions, and analytical essays illustrate the franchise's resonance within pop culture, bridging the gap between entertainment consumption and creative participation. These fan interactions, while unofficial, contribute to a living mythology, reinforcing audience investment and shaping collective expectations for any future official installment. Finally, the analysis of rumor versus reality is critical in evaluating Underworld 6. While fan theories, AI-generated trailers, and social media speculation abound, the absence of official announcements, production confirmation, or verified casting maintains the project in the realm of possibility rather than certainty. This tension between anticipation and verification underscores the franchise's ability to inspire imagination while reminding audiences of the importance of critical engagement with unofficial content. Despite this uncertainty, the conceptual richness of Underworld 6 demonstrates the franchise's potential to evolve, integrating legacy characters, complex mythology, and sophisticated thematic exploration into a new chapter of the vampire Lycan saga. Centuries had passed since the first battles between vampires and Lycans had scarred the earth and rewritten the balance of power in the supernatural world. Cities had been built over ruins of ancient fortresses, forests had swallowed old battlefields, and whispers of long-forgotten elders lingered in the dark corners of every shadowed alley. The vampires, proud and calculating, had ruled from their towering citadels, their lives measured not in decades but in centuries, each decision a thread in an endless web of strategy and survival. The Lycans, ever fierce and untamed, roamed the wilderness in packs, their strength amplified by generations of clandestine breeding, each howl carrying the echoes of ancient vengeance. And in the shadows, hybrid creatures, neither fully vampire nor Lycan, crept quietly, their very existence a secret experiment, a bridge between two warring species, and a potential weapon in the battles yet to come. Selene stood atop the highest spire of a Gothic citadel, her long cloak whipping in the wind that swept through the ruined city below. Centuries of war had hardened her, carving into her a resolve as cold and sharp as the silver daggers strapped across her belt. Yet, tonight, there was a sense of unease she could not shake. The ancient rituals she had once thought buried had begun to stir again, whispers of a faction thought long dead, a clan of pure-blood vampires with the power to surpass any known in both magic and bloodline, had returned. They moved like shadows within shadows, striking silently at those who had dared rebuild a world free of their domination. Selene's instincts, honed over lifetimes, screamed that a storm was coming, one that could engulf all she had fought to protect. In the forests beyond the city, Lycan packs were restless. A new alpha had risen, a creature both cunning and merciless, whose vision for his kind went beyond mere survival. He sought unity among the fractured packs, dreaming of an alliance that could challenge the vampire citadels themselves. Yet, within his vision lurked a dangerous ambition. He would not tolerate weakness, and betrayal, once discovered, was met with swift, brutal retribution. The Lycan leader's gaze was always forward, calculating the balance of power, anticipating moves centuries in advance. But even he did not anticipate the emergence of hybrids, creatures born not from natural union but from the secret blood magic of the purebloods, creatures capable of turning the tide of any battle. Among these hybrids was a child named Kale, young yet imbued with abilities that defied conventional understanding. Eyes that shifted in color from silver to amber marked him as a being born to straddle two worlds. His mind carried knowledge beyond his years, yet innocence lingered in his soul. The purebloods coveted him, seeing in him a key to absolute dominance, a bridge between vampire and Lycan, the embodiment of an unprecedented power. They whispered of rituals that could amplify his abilities, rituals that would bend him to their will, stripping him of any remaining humanity. But Kale had the instincts of survival, and a spark of resistance glimmered even within the shadows of the purebloods' manipulations. Celine's first encounter with the emerging threat came in the form of a massacre, a village on the edge of vampire territory, wiped clean by creatures she had never seen. Their movements were precise, calculated, and disturbingly silent. Bodies bore marks not of traditional vampiric claws or Lycan fangs but of something in between, hybrid strikes, lethal yet refined. Investigating the scene, Celine traced the signature, recognizing it immediately from tales whispered in vampire councils, the telltale signs of pure blood magic. Someone, or something, was orchestrating the rise of a power that could eclipse both vampires and Lycans, and the first threads of war were already being woven. Meanwhile, the Lycan Alpha, sensing the shifting balance, gathered his lieutenants in a hidden grove illuminated by the moon's silver light. They debated the implications of the pureblood resurgence. Some argued for preemptive attacks, while others urged caution, emphasizing that rushing into conflict without understanding the enemy's full strength could lead to annihilation. The Alpha listened, his expression unreadable, calculating. In this war, patience was as lethal a weapon as claws or fangs. And yet, even he could not ignore the unease that spread through his kind, the feeling that history's darkest shadows were stirring once again, shadows that had been buried for centuries for a reason. Celine, navigating the ruined city and the treacherous allegiances of vampire elders, found herself drawn to an unlikely alliance. A Lycan emissary arrived with a proposition, mutual cooperation against the pureblood threat. Trust was scarce, but necessity demanded it. Negotiations were tense, fraught with the weight of millennia of enmity. Yet, beneath the surface, both Celine and the Lycan Alpha recognized the truth. Only by uniting could they hope to protect the hybrid child and confront the pureblood uprising. The fragile alliance formed, but both parties were acutely aware that betrayal could come at any moment, that survival in this world required both strength and cunning. The first major confrontation unfolded at the edge of a desolate valley, where pureblood forces had established a stronghold in an ancient, forgotten fortress. Its spires clawed at the clouds, a structure of black stone carved with runes that pulsed faintly with dark magic. Celine and the Lycan Alpha led their combined forces toward the fortress under the cover of night, the air thick with tension. Every step was calculated, scouts reported strange hybrid patrols, creatures moving with inhuman speed and intelligence. As they approached, Celine could feel the magic emanating from the fortress, a subtle but powerful aura that set even her senses on edge. These were no ordinary vampires or Lycans, they were the culmination of blood, magic, and ambition, and they would not yield without a devastating fight. The battle began with a sudden onslaught. Hybrid soldiers struck first, descending like shadows upon Celine's forces. Their attacks were synchronized, almost choreographed, a terrifying display of power and precision. Vampire and Lycan fighters responded in kind, their abilities pushed to the limit, blending martial skill with supernatural strength. Celine moved through the battlefield with deadly grace, her dual pistols striking with pinpoint accuracy while her combat skills allowed her to deflect and counter multiple opponents at once. The Lycan Alpha fought beside her, a whirlwind of claws and brute force, his pack tearing through hybrid forces with unmatched ferocity. Amid the chaos, Kale remained hidden, guided by instincts that allowed him to manipulate the battlefield subtly, using powers that neither vampires nor Lycans fully understood. His presence, though unseen, became a deciding factor in turning skirmishes in favor of Celine's coalition. Amid these confrontations, political intrigue simmered within the Vampire Council. Elders debated the implications of openly allying with Lycans, some arguing that any cooperation was a betrayal of centuries of tradition. Celine, aware that time was slipping and that the purebloods' power was growing, moved to consolidate support, reminding the council that survival required adaptability. Historical texts and forbidden lore were consulted, revealing the origins of the pureblood faction, a lineage of vampires who had mastered a form of blood magic that allowed them to manipulate hybrid life forms and bend natural laws. These revelations, though alarming, provided Celine with crucial insight into her enemy, guiding the strategic decisions that would shape the coming battles. Discussions surrounding Underworld 6 have been dominated by fan theories, speculative casting, and rumors about potential plotlines. Since there is no official confirmation from Screen Gems, Lakeshore Entertainment, or any major studio, the majority of information available comes from online communities, entertainment blogs, social media, and video sharing platforms. Fans of the franchise have extensively debated possible directions the sixth installment could take, often extrapolating from unresolved narrative threads in Blood Wars, hints from the franchise's mythology, and the creative potential inherent in the Vampire Lycan universe. Among the most pervasive rumors is the idea that Underworld 6 will continue to explore the fragile equilibrium between vampires and Lycans, threatened by the resurgence of ancient, hidden factions such as the Purebloods or the Bloodline Vampires. These factions are often described in fan speculation as having been dormant for centuries, emerging now with intentions to dominate or reshape the supernatural hierarchy. Another recurring theme in Underworld 6 speculation involves the emergence of new hybrid characters. Fans theorize that the story will center around hybrids that combine the most formidable traits of both vampires and Lycans, creating beings capable of overpowering established factions and destabilizing existing power structures. These hybrids are imagined not merely as weapons but as sentient beings with moral agency, whose existence challenges long-standing prejudices and forces both vampires and Lycans to confront ethical dilemmas. The hybrids' origins are often tied to secret experiments or rediscovered ancient knowledge, potentially involving forgotten artifacts, forbidden alchemy, or previously hidden bloodlines. These speculative plot elements align with the franchise's established themes of identity, loyalty, and survival, offering opportunities for narrative innovation while remaining consistent with the universe's internal logic. Fan speculation also frequently addresses the potential return of Celine, portrayed by Kate Beckinsale. While her involvement has not been officially confirmed, many theories envision her as the central figure in Underworld 6, navigating a world that has shifted dramatically since the events of Blood Wars. Her character is expected to confront both personal and external challenges, including the resurgence of vampire factions, the threat posed by hybrids, and the emergence of previously unknown supernatural entities. Fans imagine Celine's journey as encompassing not only physical combat but also political strategy, ethical decision-making, and the reconciliation of past traumas. Her interactions with other characters, including potential allies and adversaries, are anticipated to be complex and emotionally resonant, reflecting the franchise's tradition of combining action with deep character development. Speculative casting for Underworld 6 has been a major focus of fan discussion. In addition to Kate Beckinsale, some rumors suggest the inclusion of returning characters such as David, a hybrid or ally who may play a pivotal role in bridging vampire-Lycan conflicts. Other speculative roles include a Lycan prince or heir, potentially descended from Lucian, who could serve as a central figure in the struggle against the purebloods. Additionally, fan-created narratives propose the appearance of a pureblood vampire queen or elder, wielding unprecedented power and challenging the authority of existing vampire leadership. Although none of these casting rumors have been verified by credible sources, the consistent mention of these roles across multiple fan platforms indicates the narrative significance assigned to them by the franchise's audience. The discussion of potential new characters often reflects broader desires among fans for fresh conflicts, complex alliances, and expanded mythology. A particularly prominent aspect of Underworld 6 speculation has been the circulation of a trailer purportedly showcasing the next installment. While initially taken seriously by some viewers, critical analysis and expert commentary have identified the trailer as AI-generated and fan-made rather than an official studio release. Despite its unofficial nature, the trailer has significantly influenced fan theories, with viewers interpreting visual cues, character appearances, and suggested plot points as indicative of the potential direction for the film. The trailer's impact highlights the blurred lines between fan-generated content and perceived official announcements in the digital age, demonstrating how speculation can gain momentum and shape audience expectations even in the absence of verified information. Rumors about the release date of Underworld 6 have also been widely discussed, often citing potential dates in 2025, with occasional suggestions of a Halloween release. These claims, however, remain entirely speculative, as no production schedule has been confirmed by the studios. The persistent speculation about timing reflects the franchise's enduring popularity and the anticipation surrounding a continuation of Celine's story. Additionally, discussions about the potential release emphasize the commercial and cultural significance of the series, with fans projecting both narrative expectations and box office potential. Speculative marketing strategies, including fictional posters, social media campaigns, and fan-generated trailers, have further fueled these conversations, creating a virtual ecosystem of anticipation that exists independently of official production plans. Thematically, fan theories about Underworld 6 often focus on the continuation and escalation of conflicts introduced in previous installments. This includes the unresolved struggle between vampire factions, the ongoing tension with Lycan society, and the ethical and strategic implications of hybrid existence. Fans speculate that the narrative will explore the consequences of immortality, the burden of leadership, and the complexities of loyalty in a world where alliances are fragile and betrayal is ever present. Hypothetical plotlines often incorporate elements of political intrigue, ancient prophecies, and rediscovered secrets, suggesting that Underworld 6 could blend action with deeper exploration of mythology and character motivation. Such speculation demonstrates the franchise's ability to inspire imaginative engagement, encouraging fans to consider multifaceted story possibilities that extend beyond the established canon. Fan engagement also encompasses broader interpretations of the Underworld universe, including potential crossovers, expanded backstories, and prequel-sequel integrations. Some theorists propose that Underworld 6 could serve as a bridge to explore untold histories, previously hidden factions, or undiscovered supernatural phenomena, while simultaneously setting the stage for future installments or spin-offs. These discussions often emphasize the richness of the franchise's world-building, with fans drawing on established lore, character histories, and thematic patterns to construct plausible extensions of the narrative. The resulting web of theories reflects not only the audience's passion for the franchise but also the flexibility and depth of its universe, which accommodates a wide range of interpretations and creative speculation. In conclusion, while there is no official confirmation of Underworld 6, the extensive network of fan theories, rumors, and speculative narratives illustrates the franchise's enduring cultural resonance. Discussions about potential plotlines, character returns, hybrid dynamics, and thematic exploration demonstrate the creativity and investment of the fan base. The interplay of mythology, hierarchy, and unresolved narrative threads provides fertile ground for speculation, enabling fans to envision compelling continuations of the Vampire Lycan saga. Even in the absence of verified information, these discussions contribute to the vitality and relevance of the Underworld franchise, highlighting its capacity to inspire imagination, debate, and anticipation for possible future installments. As the speculative narrative of Underworld 6 progresses, the climax could be imagined as a sprawling, multifaceted battle that tests every character's abilities, alliances, and moral convictions. The antagonist vampire faction, led by the rumored pureblood vampire queen, could have mobilized an elite army of highly trained warriors, each with centuries of combat experience and supernatural enhancements. Their strategic objective might be to eliminate the hybrid threat, seize control of remaining vampire territories, and cement absolute dominance. This organized, ruthless approach would contrast sharply with the more improvised, yet resilient, coalition of Selene, surviving vampires, and Lycans who have forged a fragile alliance. The juxtaposition of disciplined authoritarian forces against adaptive, morally complex defenders would create high-stakes tension and allow for innovative action sequences, visually dynamic combat, and deeply personal confrontations. In this climactic sequence, Selene would likely emerge as a linchpin, both tactically and emotionally. Her centuries of experience would allow her to anticipate enemy movements, counter ambushes, and inspire allies. Beyond physical prowess, her leadership would be tested, as she negotiates temporary alliances, counsels inexperienced hybrids, and faces morally complex decisions about who to trust and whom to sacrifice for the greater good. Moments of vulnerability, perhaps when a trusted ally falls or a hybrid student defies her orders, would humanize her character, reminding audiences that even a centuries-old warrior must navigate the weight of ethical choices amidst chaos. Hybrids, central to the speculative story, could serve as unpredictable elements that tip the balance of battle. Their dual nature allows for innovative combat strategies, blending vampire agility and Lycan strength, while their emotional arcs offer compelling drama. For instance, a hybrid may struggle with allegiance, drawn to both Selene's cause and the promise of power offered by the antagonist faction. Such internal conflicts could result in critical turning points in the battle, heightening tension and adding narrative depth. These moments also allow exploration of identity and belonging, recurring themes in the franchise, as hybrids embody the potential for both creation and destruction. The Lycans' role in the climax could emphasize resilience, strategy, and primal instinct. Fan speculation often depicts rogue Lycan leaders orchestrating flanking maneuvers, guerrilla tactics, and diversionary attacks, utilizing both brute strength and tactical cunning. Their interactions with vampire allies, fraught with mistrust and historical animosity, would underscore the fragile nature of interspecies alliances. Moments of reconciliation, betrayal, or sacrificial heroism could create emotional resonance, reinforcing that even amid supernatural spectacle, personal stakes and ethical dilemmas drive the narrative. Ancient vampire and Lycan lore could be woven into the climax, providing both motivation and narrative devices. Legendary bloodlines, mystical relics, or lost rituals might influence the battle's outcome, granting temporary powers, revealing hidden truths, or uniting disparate factions. For example, uncovering a long-forgotten pureblood codex or Lycan prophecy could allow Selene's coalition to anticipate enemy movements, turn enemies against one another, or unlock previously unknown abilities. These mythic elements would blend seamlessly with action sequences, creating layered storytelling that is both epic in scale and rich in lore. The imagined final confrontation between Selene and the pureblood vampire queen would likely be both visually spectacular and emotionally charged. Their duel could span multiple terrains, Gothic castle halls, moonlit rooftops, shadowed forests, combining fluid combat choreography, supernatural abilities, and intense personal stakes. The Queen's mastery of vampire powers and centuries of combat would challenge Selene in unexpected ways, requiring ingenuity, adaptability, and the support of allies to prevail. Narrative tension could be heightened by ethical dilemmas, such as the Queen threatening innocents or hybrids, forcing Selene to weigh her priorities and confront the consequences of past choices. Resolution in this speculative Underworld 6 could reflect both triumph and sacrifice. While Selene and her allies may achieve victory, it would likely come at significant cost, loss of allies, structural destruction of territories, or irreversible changes to the supernatural balance. Hybrids who survive might emerge as leaders or mediators, symbolizing a new era where collaboration, rather than pure-blood dominance, shapes the future. These outcomes would maintain the franchise's thematic consistency, emphasizing the cyclical nature of conflict, the weight of history, and the potential for renewal. Character arcs in this imagined narrative would be completed with attention to personal growth, redemption, and legacy. Selene might evolve from a solitary warrior to a mentor and leader, accepting responsibility for guiding the next generation. Hybrids could navigate identity crises, ultimately embracing their dual heritage as a strength rather than a curse. Lycans might reconcile with former enemies, acknowledging that survival and evolution require cooperation. Such arcs ensure that, despite epic battles and supernatural spectacle, the story remains emotionally resonant and thematically coherent. The expanded mythology could delve into previously unexplored aspects of vampire and Lycan history. Fan speculation often imagines hidden societies, secret alliances, and ancient conspiracies that shaped centuries of conflict. Discovering these secrets could drive narrative twists, illuminate character motivations, and create opportunities for world building. For example, ancient vampire councils might have hidden agendas, Lycan elders could possess lost knowledge, and hybrid experimentation could be revealed as a centuries-old prophecy. These layers provide depth, reward attentive audiences, and allow future installments or spin-offs to expand organically. Post-climactic epilogues in this imagined Underworld 6 could set the stage for future stories while offering closure. Selene might establish a new governing order, hybrids could assume leadership roles, and survivors from both vampire and Lycan factions might work toward coexistence. Hints of lingering threats, such as dormant pureblood factions or unaccounted-for rogue Lycans, could tease potential sequels, maintaining tension and audience interest. Additionally, the franchise could explore thematic questions about legacy, morality, and the evolution of power, ensuring that narrative threads remain fertile for continuation in film, television, or other media. Marketing and audience engagement would play a crucial role in bringing Underworld 6 to life, should it be officially produced. Given the franchise's dedicated fanbase, careful use of trailers, social media teasers, character reveals, and interactive promotions could sustain excitement while preventing misinformation. Fan enthusiasm, already demonstrated through speculative media, could be harnessed to measure interest and guide creative decisions. Studios could also leverage modern technology, including virtual reality experiences or interactive storytelling, to immerse audiences further into the franchise's dark and thrilling universe. One of the most compelling aspects of the Underworld franchise lies in its exploration of enduring themes such as morality, identity, power, loyalty, and forbidden love, which run consistently through each film and provide depth beyond the spectacular action sequences. The series frequently confronts the gray areas of moral decision-making, emphasizing that neither vampires nor Lycans are entirely good or evil. Each species is portrayed with its own strengths, vulnerabilities, and ethical codes, creating a nuanced depiction of conflict that transcends simple dichotomies. Selene's moral struggles, for instance, underscore the tension between duty to one species and empathy toward those traditionally considered enemies. Her journey is as much internal as it is external. She must navigate the politics of vampire society, the threats posed by Lycans and hybrids, and the consequences of her own choices. This recurring theme of ethical ambiguity distinguishes the Underworld franchise from other action horror films, allowing audiences to engage with complex questions of justice, loyalty, and the costs of war. Identity is another central motif in the franchise. Characters frequently grapple with questions of belonging, self-definition, and transformation. Michael Corvin's hybrid nature forces him to reconcile the human and supernatural aspects of his existence, embodying the tension between evolution and tradition. Selene, too, confronts questions of identity, both as a vampire and as an individual with personal desires and ethical convictions that often conflict with her prescribed role. Hybrids, introduced in later films, further complicate the notion of identity by existing outside established societal boundaries, challenging both vampires and Lycans to reconsider rigid hierarchies and embrace, or confront, the potential of a new generation of beings. In speculative discussions regarding Underworld 6, these themes of identity continue to be central, with narratives exploring how characters adapt to shifting power dynamics, genetic evolution, and the emergence of previously unknown factions. The theme of war, conflict, and the consequences of long-standing enmity is woven throughout the series. From the oppression of Lycans by vampire elders to the emergence of hybrids that disrupt existing power structures, the franchise consistently examines the human and supernatural cost of ongoing conflict. Each film explores the ripple effects of violence and rebellion, highlighting not only the immediate tactical outcomes but also the long-term cultural, political, and personal ramifications. These explorations deepen the franchise's narrative complexity, encouraging viewers to reflect on broader questions of power, justice, and the ethics of leadership. Speculative narratives for Underworld 6 often amplify this theme, proposing large-scale confrontations between emerging vampire bloodlines, hybrid factions, and Lycan communities, raising the stakes and broadening the scope of conflict beyond the individual or immediate group to encompass entire societies. Forbidden love and personal connection remain persistent motifs throughout the franchise, providing emotional resonance that balances the action-driven narrative. Celine's romantic involvement with Michael Corvin serves as a touchstone for exploring these themes, illustrating the risks and consequences of defying societal expectations for the sake of personal desire. Similarly, historical romances, such as that between Lucian and Sonia, underscore the tension between love and duty, highlighting the human, and supernatural, capacity for loyalty, sacrifice, and moral complexity. In the context of Underworld 6, fan speculation often emphasizes the continuation of these romantic and personal dynamics, potentially introducing new relationships, tensions, and conflicts arising from hybrid offspring or alliances across species lines. These thematic threads not only enhance character development but also maintain continuity with the emotional and moral stakes established in earlier films. Political intrigue is a frequent driver of narrative tension within the Underworld universe, and it is expected to play a significant role in any continuation. Vampire elders traditionally wield immense power, governing their society with strict hierarchies and enforcing loyalty through both persuasion and coercion. Within this structure, factions may arise, both loyalists and dissenters, each seeking to influence or disrupt established order. Similarly, Lycan communities face internal struggles, leadership disputes, and challenges posed by hybrid emergence or external threats. These political dynamics provide fertile ground for Underworld 6, where speculative narratives suggest that new vampire bloodlines may vie for dominance, hybrids may assert autonomy, and Celine may navigate alliances that blur traditional boundaries. The interplay of political maneuvering, loyalty, and ethical dilemmas would allow for intricate storytelling, combining action with layered character interactions and strategic conflicts. Speculative plotlines for Underworld 6 often emphasize the emergence of hybrid generations with unprecedented abilities. Hybrids could serve as both the central figures of the narrative and symbols of the evolving universe, challenging the established power hierarchies of both vampires and Lycans. These characters might navigate complex moral and political landscapes, balancing personal freedom with societal expectations and responsibilities. The existence of such hybrids also introduces narrative opportunities for exploring generational conflict, mentorship, and the consequences of inherited legacies. In addition to hybrids, the potential return of ancient vampire bloodlines, long thought extinct, would heighten tension, creating scenarios in which historical rivalries, grudges, and unresolved conflicts resurface, forcing characters to confront both past actions and future responsibilities. Mystical elements are another avenue through which Underworld 6 could expand the franchise's narrative depth. Rumored artifacts, such as the so-called Crimson Blood, may hold extraordinary powers capable of influencing the balance between vampires, Lycans, and hybrids. The introduction of such elements allows for the exploration of supernatural ethics, the consequences of wielding extraordinary power, and the broader implications of disrupting long-standing natural and societal orders. These mystical components could intertwine with political and personal conflicts, adding complexity to character motivations and narrative tension. The combination of high-stakes mystical conflict, political maneuvering, and personal struggles aligns with the franchise's established storytelling model, providing continuity while enabling fresh narrative directions. Speculative endings for Underworld 6 vary widely in fan discourse, reflecting the franchise's rich narrative possibilities. Some propose that Celine and Michael might ultimately unite disparate factions, forging a new order that balances the interests of vampires, Lycans, and hybrids, thereby achieving a form of lasting peace while confronting external threats. Others suggest darker conclusions, in which power struggles lead to renewed conflict, betrayals, or the rise of hybrid-dominated societies that challenge the traditional balance of power. Each scenario maintains continuity with the franchise's core themes, emphasizing the interplay of morality, identity, and consequence. These speculative conclusions highlight the franchise's flexibility, allowing for a wide range of narrative outcomes while preserving the essential elements that define the Underworld universe. Long-term narrative arcs for the franchise may extend beyond Underworld 6, exploring the evolution of vampire and Lycan societies, the consequences of hybrid integration, and the ongoing moral and ethical dilemmas associated with power, loyalty, and identity. Potential directions include the emergence of new threats, such as rival supernatural species, the development of interspecies alliances, and explorations of the human world's interaction with the secretive vampire Lycan societies. These arcs could provide opportunities for serialized storytelling across multiple media platforms, including film, television, graphic novels, and video games. By leveraging the franchise's established mythology and visual style, future narratives can maintain continuity while expanding the scope and complexity of the Underworld universe. The franchise's visual and stylistic continuity remains a defining characteristic and is likely to influence any continuation in Underworld 6. The distinctive Gothic aesthetic, characterized by dark, moody lighting, high-contrast cinematography, and meticulously designed sets, has become a hallmark of the series. Action sequences blend martial arts, wirework, and supernatural abilities, creating visually dynamic combat that emphasizes both skill and supernatural power. Maintaining this visual and stylistic consistency is crucial for preserving the franchise's identity, ensuring that new installments resonate with longtime fans while attracting new audiences. Additionally, the integration of modern visual effects and CGI technology could enhance depictions of hybrid abilities, supernatural combat, and mystical artifacts, further elevating the cinematic experience. Fan anticipation for Underworld 6 reflects not only enthusiasm for narrative continuation but also engagement with broader cultural and technological trends. The use of AI-generated content, social media speculation, and fan art demonstrates how audiences actively participate in world-building and storytelling, effectively co-creating narratives in the absence of official material. While this engagement can lead to confusion regarding official developments, it also signifies the franchise's enduring relevance and the desire for immersive, interactive experiences within the Underworld universe. Studios observing these trends may consider fan-generated content and speculative enthusiasm when planning future installments, potentially incorporating popular concepts, character archetypes, or thematic elements into official productions to satisfy audience expectations while maintaining creative control. As the night deepened, the battle at the ancient fortress escalated into chaos and fury. Shadows twisted across the blackened stone walls as hybrid soldiers emerged from hidden passages, their eyes glinting with unnatural intelligence. Celine's heart pounded, not from fear but from the calculation of every move she would make. She had fought Lycans and rogue vampires before, but these hybrids were different. They combined the ferocity of a Lycan with the cunning of a vampire and an unpredictability that no seasoned fighter could anticipate. Every strike she delivered had to account for their reflexes, their enhanced strength, and the faint, shimmering aura of blood magic that surrounded them. One misstep could spell death, not just for her, but for the fragile alliance she had formed with the Lycans. Kale, hidden within the fortress, felt the pulse of the magic emanating from the pure bloods. It resonated deep within him, awakening powers he did not yet fully understand. He could feel the movement of the hybrid soldiers, anticipate their attacks before they came, and subtly manipulate the environment, rocks, shards of metal, and shadows bending in response to his instincts. Though young, his connection to both vampire and Lycan blood gave him a unique perspective, one that the purebloods had underestimated. They saw him only as a tool to be molded and controlled, not realizing that he had a mind and will of his own. Each pulse of magic he unleashed subtly disrupted the hybrid formations, turning the tide of skirmishes before Celine and the Lycan forces even realized what was happening. Inside the fortress, the pureblood elders convened in a dark chamber, their faces shadowed by hoods and the flickering light of enchanted flames. Their leader, known only in whispers as Vera, observed the battlefield through a pool of liquid obsidian. Her lips curved into a faint, cruel smile. "They think they can challenge us," she murmured, her voice dripping with centuries of disdain. "They underestimate what the purebloods have learned in secrecy, what we have perfected in the shadows. The child is ours, and with him, we will command the destiny of this world." Her fingers traced intricate runes carved into the obsidian, weaving magic that would strengthen her soldiers and sap the confidence of her enemies. The purebloods were patient predators, and every moment of battle was calculated to lead to the ultimate victory. Back on the battlefield, the alliance of Selene and the Lycans faced wave after wave of hybrids. Claws clashed against steel, fangs tore through flesh, and the air was thick with the smell of blood and the metallic tang of magic. The Lycan Alpha, a towering figure of rippling muscle and lethal precision, tore through hybrid formations, his pack following with disciplined ferocity. Yet even he recognized the sophistication of their opponents. "These are not ordinary hybrids," he growled, wiping blood from his jaw. "They think like vampires, strike like Lycans, and anticipate like something else entirely." His pack, trained for centuries in survival and combat, had never encountered an enemy so adaptive and relentless. Survival demanded innovation, and alliances forged in necessity were put to the test as every strike, every decision, became a matter of life or death. Selene, moving with a grace born of centuries of combat, dispatched multiple hybrids at once, her dual pistols firing in perfect rhythm with her acrobatic maneuvers. Yet even she could not ignore the strategic genius behind their attacks. Hybrid squads flanked from unexpected directions, forcing her and the Lycan forces to split and regroup constantly. She felt the subtle pulse of Kale's magic within the fortress, guiding small advantages, walls collapsing at precise moments, debris creating temporary barriers, but knew that his abilities, though formidable, were still developing. Protecting him became paramount. The child was not only the key to the purebloods' plan but also a symbol of potential unity between vampire and Lycan, a living embodiment of the fragile hope they all clung to amidst the bloodshed. Within the fortress, the first breach was initiated by Selene and a small elite force. They scaled the outer walls under the cover of darkness, moving silently past hybrid sentries, their motions precise and rehearsed. The fortress interior was a labyrinth of ancient corridors, traps, and enchanted wards designed to disorient and injure intruders. Every corner hid potential ambushes, every shadow concealed deadly intent. Selene's senses were heightened, her instincts guiding her through the maze as she deflected attacks and disarmed traps. The Lycan Alpha followed, his brute strength making quick work of obstacles that would have slowed lesser beings. The two leaders moved with an unspoken understanding, their temporary alliance now cemented by the urgency of survival and the stakes of the mission. Meanwhile, Kale's training and instincts accelerated rapidly. The presence of danger, combined with the awakening of his latent abilities, allowed him to manipulate both matter and perception. Shadows twisted to obscure his movements, minor objects flew through the air with subtle force, and the hybrid patrols found themselves disoriented as if the fortress itself were alive and shifting. Though he was still a child in body and mind, the combination of vampire blood, Lycan resilience, and untapped mystical potential made him a force that neither Selene nor the purebloods had fully anticipated. His emerging control over these abilities marked him as a central figure in the conflict, one whose choices would shape the outcome of the war and possibly the future of the supernatural world itself. As Selene and the Lycan elite force navigated the fortress, they encountered the first of the pureblood lieutenants, vampires whose strength had been enhanced through forbidden rituals, their eyes glowing with unnatural energy. The combat that ensued was fierce and unrelenting. Selene moved with lethal precision, her blade striking in coordination with gunfire, while the Lycan Alpha engaged the enhanced vampires in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Every move was a test of reflexes, strategy, and endurance. These were not ordinary battles, they were clashes of centuries-old knowledge, magical augmentation, and the raw power of beings honed through generations. Victory required more than strength, it demanded ingenuity, adaptability, and the ability to anticipate the enemy's next move. Amidst this chaos, political tension simmered within the Vampire Council. Selene had sent word to the remaining elders, warning them of the pureblood resurgence and urging their support. Some elders resisted, clinging to the traditions of isolation and superiority that had defined their kind for centuries. Others saw the necessity of uniting with the Lycans and adapting to the new threat. Secret meetings were held in hidden chambers, ancient texts consulted to uncover knowledge of the purebloods' origins, and forgotten rituals revived in attempts to counteract their dark power. The interplay of trust, suspicion, and urgency created a delicate balance, where a single betrayal could unravel the fragile alliances that had been painstakingly formed. In the midst of this turmoil, the young hybrid Kale began to understand the magnitude of his role. He could feel the weight of the purebloods' expectations pressing upon him, but he also sensed the fragile hope invested in him by Selene and the Lycan Alpha. Each decision, each act of resistance, carried consequences far beyond his years. His emerging powers allowed him to subtly influence the battlefield, protect allies, and exploit the weaknesses of the pureblood forces. Yet with every exertion of his abilities, he felt the pull of the darkness that the purebloods had sought to instill in him, a seductive power promising control and dominion if he were to submit. The struggle within him mirrored the larger conflict, the eternal battle between freedom and control, loyalty and ambition, light and shadow. Speculation about Underworld 6 frequently revolves around the emergence of new factions that challenge the existing balance of power between vampires and Lycans. Rumored plot arcs often posit the rise of an ancient vampire lineage, sometimes referred to in fan circles as the Dark Blood or Bloodline, whose members possess powers and knowledge long thought lost to history. These factions are typically imagined as being ruthless, with goals that encompass domination of the supernatural world or eradication of rival species. Their sudden reappearance threatens to destabilize the fragile alliances forged in previous installments, compelling established characters such as Selene to confront threats that test both her combat prowess and strategic intelligence. The narrative tension is further amplified by the hybrid lineage represented by Selene's daughter, Eve, whose existence could either be the key to maintaining balance or a catalyst for unprecedented chaos. Within this speculative storyline, potential antagonists include ancient vampire elders who have survived centuries in secrecy, plotting their return to power. Fan theories often suggest that these characters have access to forbidden knowledge, artifacts, or unique abilities that surpass those of contemporary vampires and Lycans. Their motivations are imagined as complex, encompassing both revenge for historical grievances and an insatiable thirst for dominance. Lycans, too, are frequently depicted as factionalized, with rogue packs seeking either to capitalize on the chaos or to establish their own hegemony over the supernatural realm. This multi-layered conflict creates a narrative landscape in which alliances are fragile, loyalties are constantly tested, and the distinction between hero and villain becomes increasingly ambiguous. The potential allies in Underworld 6 are equally compelling. Fans envision Selene forging temporary alliances with rogue Lycans, sympathetic vampire factions, or even hybrids, creating a dynamic interplay of trust and betrayal. These alliances, often born of necessity rather than friendship, are central to the franchise's enduring thematic exploration of loyalty, strategy, and survival. The tension inherent in such collaborations allows for nuanced character interactions, moral ambiguity, and unpredictable plot developments. Through these relationships, the narrative can explore the fragility of trust, the price of compromise, and the ethical dilemmas faced when survival demands morally complex choices. Conflict escalation in these speculative narratives is typically portrayed on both personal and large-scale levels. Personal conflicts arise from internal struggles within characters, particularly Selene and Eve, who must reconcile their personal desires, ethical principles, and responsibilities as warriors and protectors. Large-scale conflicts manifest as battles between vampire covens, Lycan packs, and hybrid factions, often spanning multiple locations, from Gothic castles and urban environments to subterranean lairs and mist-shrouded forests. Fan-generated ideas frequently imagine visually spectacular set pieces that blend martial arts-inspired choreography, supernatural powers, and environmental hazards, maintaining the franchise's tradition of intense, cinematic action. These sequences are not only about spectacle but also serve to heighten tension, reveal character growth, and advance the narrative stakes. Rumored storylines often introduce subplots that explore the historical origins of vampire and Lycan powers. For instance, ancient prophecies, long-forgotten rituals, or lost artifacts might resurface, creating both opportunities and threats for the protagonists. Such elements serve as narrative catalysts, driving the story forward while reinforcing the franchise's mythology. They also provide opportunities for character development, moral dilemmas, and thematic depth, illustrating the consequences of power, ambition, and the passage of time. Fan speculation frequently envisions climactic sequences where Selene and Eve confront the primary antagonist, whether it is a powerful vampire elder, a rogue Lycan faction, or a hybrid uprising. These confrontations are imagined as both physical and psychological, testing not only combat skills but also intelligence, emotional resilience, and strategic foresight. The resolution of these conflicts often carries thematic weight, reflecting on the cost of immortality, the value of alliances, and the potential for reconciliation or destruction. Fans speculate that such climactic moments would feature innovative visual effects, intricate choreography, and high-stakes tension, consistent with the franchise's signature style. Potential plot resolutions in Underworld 6, as imagined by fans, range from a tentative peace between species to the emergence of a new supernatural hierarchy. In some narratives, Eve's role as a hybrid serves as the linchpin for lasting change, bridging historical divides and reshaping the power dynamics that have defined vampire and Lycan interactions for centuries. Selene's journey in these stories often culminates in a confrontation that tests her ethical boundaries, personal loyalty, and maternal instincts, reinforcing her status as both warrior and protector. Thematically, such resolutions emphasize legacy, the cyclical nature of conflict, and the moral complexities inherent in immortality and supernatural power. The cinematic vision for these speculative storylines emphasizes atmosphere, scale, and visual coherence. Fans often imagine a combination of Gothic architecture, shadowed urban environments, and natural landscapes that serve both narrative and aesthetic functions. Lighting, composition, and visual effects are envisioned to heighten tension, convey supernatural abilities, and reinforce thematic motifs. Battle sequences are imagined as meticulously choreographed, integrating character abilities, environmental hazards, and strategic complexity to create a sense of realism and immersion. Such visual considerations, even in fan-generated content, demonstrate the franchise's enduring appeal and the importance of maintaining stylistic consistency across potential future installments. Fan communities have also speculated on narrative twists, hidden motivations, and betrayals that could define Underworld 6. Examples include previously unknown hybrid lineages seeking vengeance, vampire elders manipulating events behind the scenes, or Lycans uniting under charismatic leaders to challenge the existing order. These ideas, though unverified, reflect the franchise's capacity to inspire deep narrative engagement and imaginative exploration, keeping the mythology alive even in the absence of official confirmation. They also illustrate the franchise's thematic flexibility, allowing storytellers, official or fan-based, to explore questions of power, morality, loyalty, and identity within a supernatural context. Finally, the anticipation surrounding Underworld 6 highlights the franchise's cultural and narrative significance. While the absence of official production news maintains uncertainty, fan-generated content demonstrates the series' continued relevance. Online discussions, fan art, speculative trailers, and analytical essays reveal an engaged audience eager to explore new storylines, characters, and conflicts. This engagement not only sustains the franchise's popularity but also influences how any potential future installment could be conceptualized, integrating both canonical elements and audience expectations into a coherent narrative vision. The production of the Underworld films has consistently reflected a commitment to a highly stylized visual aesthetic, blending Gothic horror, modern action choreography, and elaborate set design to create a universe that feels both timeless and contemporary. From the original film onwards, the series has emphasized visual storytelling, using lighting, color grading, and cinematography to convey mood, tension, and character psychology. The first Underworld film, directed by Len Wiseman, established a signature visual palette dominated by desaturated blues, grays, and blacks, creating a nocturnal atmosphere that complemented the narrative of secretive vampire Lycan conflict. Wiseman's directorial approach focused on dynamic camera angles, fluid motion, and a balance between close-up character shots and expansive action sequences, allowing audiences to experience both the intimate and epic aspects of the story simultaneously. This style became a defining characteristic of the franchise, influencing subsequent installments and creating a visual language that fans instantly recognize. The integration of special effects and practical choreography has been another hallmark of Underworld's production. Early films utilized a combination of wirework, stunt coordination, and visual effects to depict the superhuman abilities of vampires and Lycans. Combat sequences were meticulously choreographed to convey both elegance and lethality, with Celine's movements often serving as a central focal point. The films employed slow motion, rapid cuts, and stylistic framing to enhance the impact of battles while maintaining narrative clarity. As technology advanced, later installments incorporated increasingly sophisticated CGI to depict transformations, enhanced powers, and complex hybrid forms. These visual effects not only heightened the spectacle but also allowed the filmmakers to explore the supernatural elements of the universe in a way that remained consistent with the established mythology. Directorial contributions beyond Len Wiseman have also shaped the franchise's stylistic evolution. Underworld, Evolution retained Wiseman's approach while expanding the scale of action set pieces, introducing larger environments, and emphasizing the historical context of vampire and Lycan lineages through flashbacks and narrative exposition. In Underworld, Rise of the Lycans, director Patrick Tatopoulos brought a darker, more atmospheric tone, emphasizing the tragic dimensions of the Lycan rebellion and the oppressive nature of vampire rule. The prequel's visual design highlighted naturalistic environments, rugged landscapes, and a muted color palette, contrasting with the urban Gothic aesthetic of previous films. Underworld, Awakening, directed by Mans Marland and Bjorn Stein, incorporated modern cinematographic techniques, including advanced camera rigs and dynamic lighting, to create a heightened sense of immediacy and tension. Underworld, Blood Wars, directed by Anna Forster, continued this trajectory, blending the established visual style with more elaborate action sequences, expanded settings, and intricate visual effects to depict large-scale supernatural battles. Cinematography has played a critical role in establishing the mood and thematic resonance of the series. The films often employ low-key lighting to create shadows, emphasizing the secrecy and danger inherent in the vampire Lycan world. Gothic architecture, industrial environments, and urban decay provide a backdrop that reinforces the narrative's themes of isolation, moral ambiguity, and the struggle for power. Color grading, particularly the use of cool tones, enhances the perception of otherworldliness and complements the nocturnal activity of vampires and Lycans. Camera movement and framing choices often reflect character perspectives, with fast pans and tracking shots conveying urgency, while tight close-ups emphasize emotional stakes and psychological tension. These techniques collectively immerse viewers in the franchise's universe, creating an experience that is simultaneously visceral and atmospheric. Costume and makeup design have also contributed significantly to the franchise's identity. Vampires are often depicted in sleek, tailored attire that reflects their sophistication, longevity, and hierarchical status, while Lycans exhibit a more primal, rugged aesthetic emphasizing their physicality and survivalist tendencies. Makeup and prosthetic effects are used to depict transformations, injuries, and supernatural features, enhancing the believability of characters and contributing to the overall world building. Hybrids, when introduced, require a synthesis of both design languages, often incorporating elements of elegance and ferocity, which visually symbolize their combined heritage. The attention to detail in costume and makeup has helped maintain continuity across films and reinforces the audience's immersion in the supernatural universe. The franchise's music and sound design further enhance its cinematic style. Underworld scores, often composed by a combination of orchestral and electronic elements, underscore tension, action, and emotional depth. Sound effects accentuate combat sequences, supernatural transformations, and environmental ambience, contributing to the sense of realism and immersion. The integration of music and sound with visual elements creates a cohesive sensory experience, allowing the films to communicate narrative stakes, character emotions, and thematic resonance effectively. This careful orchestration of audiovisual elements reinforces the franchise's distinctive style, making each installment recognizably part of the Underworld universe. Production design extends beyond visuals and sound to include the careful construction of sets, locations, and environments that reflect the narrative's needs and the mythology of the franchise. Vampire strongholds, Lycan dens, laboratories, and urban landscapes are meticulously designed to convey history, power dynamics, and social hierarchy. Set choices often reinforce the duality of the universe, the controlled, sophisticated environments of vampires versus the wild, adaptive habitats of Lycans. These design choices, combined with cinematography and lighting, create a visually and narratively coherent universe that supports character development and plot progression. The attention to detail in production design underscores the franchise's commitment to world building, ensuring that audiences are consistently immersed in a believable and compelling supernatural setting. Finally, considering the speculative production of Underworld 6, fan discussions often anticipate a continuation of the franchise's signature visual and stylistic elements. Expectations include the return of dark Gothic aesthetics, sophisticated vampire costumes, primal Lycan environments, and elaborate hybrid designs. Fans also speculate that directors may employ modern filming technology, advanced CGI, and dynamic choreography to elevate the spectacle while maintaining narrative coherence. Trailers and fan-generated content frequently incorporate these visual motifs, reinforcing the franchise's identity and highlighting the creative possibilities for a potential sixth installment. Production insights, both confirmed from past films and inferred from speculative material, suggest that Underworld 6, if realized, would likely continue the franchise's tradition of combining stylistic visual storytelling with complex world-building, dynamic action, and immersive supernatural mythology. Among the most compelling elements of a speculative Underworld 6 are the hybrids, whose very existence challenges the established order of vampires and Lycans. These characters, neither fully vampire nor fully Lycan, serve as bridges between the warring factions while embodying unique narrative tension. Imagine a hybrid protagonist, perhaps a young vampire Lycan descendant trained under Celine's guidance, struggling with dual instincts, predatory aggression and disciplined precision. Their combat style would reflect this duality, blending vampire agility, enhanced reflexes, and Lycan brute force, resulting in dynamic action sequences. Beyond physical prowess, their inner conflict, torn between loyalty to Celine, curiosity about their Lycan heritage, and temptation by rogue factions, adds layers of emotional depth. These hybrids might serve as catalysts in the plot, tipping the balance in key battles while forcing other characters to confront assumptions about trust, identity, and morality. Vampire politics in Underworld 6 could take center stage, illustrating the delicate balance between tradition and ambition. Pure-blood vampires, long revered for their ancient lineage and strict adherence to code, may push for rigid enforcement of hierarchical rules, while younger vampires, influenced by Celine's progressive outlook, might advocate for coexistence with hybrids and Lycans. Council chambers, shadowed halls, and ceremonial gatherings could become settings for intrigue, negotiations, and covert manipulation. Betrayals within the vampire hierarchy could drive suspenseful subplots, as ambitious nobles secretly collude with rogue factions or hybrid sympathizers, adding layers of complexity to the overarching conflict. These political tensions would parallel the action-driven narrative, ensuring that the story remains intellectually engaging while maintaining visceral excitement. The Lycans, meanwhile, could be portrayed with unprecedented organizational sophistication. Previously depicted largely as tribal rebels, they may now function as strategic military forces, guided by seasoned leaders descended from legendary figures like Lucian. Their society could incorporate rituals of combat readiness, clandestine communication networks, and intricate knowledge of terrain, giving them an edge in guerrilla tactics. Their interactions with vampires, historically adversarial, might now involve fragile alliances, tactical negotiations, or moments of mutual respect. Such developments would allow the narrative to explore themes of reconciliation, the price of survival, and the evolution of a species shaped by oppression and conflict. Human interactions in Underworld 6 could offer an additional layer of narrative complexity. While humans remain largely unaware of the supernatural war, pockets of knowledge, scientists, occult enthusiasts, or opportunistic mercenaries, could intersect with vampire and Lycan activities. Rumored plotlines suggest that human characters might inadvertently trigger events by uncovering hybrid experiments or ancient artifacts, creating moral dilemmas and additional stakes. Their presence would highlight the precarious secrecy of the supernatural world, emphasizing that even minor human actions can ripple across centuries-old conflicts. This interplay would reinforce the tension between hidden societies and the mundane world, maintaining suspense while offering broader narrative perspectives. Imagined action sequences in Underworld 6 could be both grand in scale and intricate in choreography. Consider a nighttime battle in a crumbling industrial complex, where hybrids leap across catwalks, vampires execute calculated strikes from shadows, and Lycans charge with primal fury. The use of verticality, shadows, and lighting could heighten visual tension, while slow-motion sequences emphasize both physical skill and supernatural ability. Strategic deployment of powers, vampire strength, Lycan senses, hybrid adaptability, would create dynamic combat tableaus that are both thrilling and narratively significant. Each sequence could be motivated by character stakes, ensuring that action advances both plot and emotional development. Individual hybrid characters could also experience profound personal growth throughout the film. A young hybrid, initially insecure about their dual nature, might confront an antagonist who embodies the worst extremes of both vampire and Lycan traits. Through struggle, mentorship from Selene, and critical decisions during battle, the hybrid could embrace their identity, becoming a linchpin in the coalition against rogue forces. Such arcs reinforce the franchise's recurring themes: identity, choice, and the reconciliation of conflicting instincts. Similarly, other characters might experience redemption or betrayal, further deepening the narrative web and highlighting the moral ambiguity that defines the series. The expanded mythology of Underworld 6 could explore previously hidden layers of vampire and Lycan history. Ancient conspiracies, secret alliances, and lost relics could be central to the plot, providing narrative propulsion and opportunities for visually striking sequences. For instance, a hidden chamber containing historical records of vampire Lycan treaties could reveal unexpected betrayals, altering characters' perceptions and strategies. Mystical artifacts might grant temporary powers or reveal lost techniques, adding tension and spectacle. These elements would provide a sense of depth and continuity, rewarding attentive fans while enriching the storytelling. Potential epilogues and future hooks could further solidify the narrative. Survivors of the final battle, both vampire and Lycan, might attempt to establish a new order, guided by lessons learned from centuries of war. Hybrids, as symbols of synthesis and evolution, could become leaders or mediators, bridging divisions and fostering a tentative peace. Yet subtle hints, perhaps a shadowy figure observing from afar or a hidden pureblood faction, could suggest that conflict is never fully resolved, leaving narrative threads open for sequels, spin-offs, or serialized adaptations. Thematically, Underworld 6 could continue to explore morality, power, and legacy. Characters would confront the consequences of their actions, the cost of vengeance, and the responsibilities of leadership. The hybrid struggle with identity could mirror broader societal tensions, while vampire political intrigue and Lycan strategy would reflect the complexities of governance and survival. Through these layers, the film could balance action with meaningful character development, offering audiences both spectacle and substance. Marketing and engagement strategies could leverage this rich narrative, teasing characters, factions, and mythological elements to build anticipation. Social media campaigns, interactive content, and controlled trailer releases could provide fans with insights into the story without revealing key plot twists. By integrating audience engagement with narrative reveals, studios could generate excitement while maintaining control over the franchise's public perception. Beyond the cinematic installments, the Underworld franchise possesses substantial potential for multimedia expansion, which could allow the universe to explore narratives, characters, and thematic complexity in ways that extend far beyond traditional film. Television series, particularly serialized streaming formats, present an ideal platform for such expansion. A series could delve into the histories of secondary characters, explore previously unseen vampire and Lycan factions, and examine the evolution of hybrids within the context of societal, political, and moral frameworks. Serialized storytelling would allow for more nuanced exploration of character arcs, intricate plotting, and the development of thematic threads that have long been central to the franchise, such as loyalty, identity, and the consequences of war. By adopting this format, the Underworld universe could expand its storytelling potential while maintaining continuity with the existing films, allowing audiences to engage with the franchise on a deeper, more sustained level. Video games represent another promising avenue for extending the Underworld universe. Action-adventure or role-playing formats could allow players to assume the roles of vampires, Lycans, or hybrids, navigating complex environments, engaging in combat, and making morally significant choices that influence the trajectory of the story. Game mechanics could integrate elements of stealth, combat strategy, and supernatural abilities, reflecting the franchise's established aesthetic and narrative sensibilities. Such an adaptation would enable immersive audience participation, allowing fans to explore the political, social, and ethical dynamics of the Underworld universe firsthand. Additionally, interactive storytelling in video games could facilitate branching narratives, multiple endings, and character development arcs that mirror the complexity of the films while providing a novel medium for exploration. Graphic novels, comic books, and prose adaptations also offer opportunities for narrative expansion. These formats could provide detailed examinations of character backstories, previously unexplored historical conflicts, and internal perspectives of secondary or newly introduced characters. Written and illustrated works could further enrich the mythological framework of the Underworld universe, exploring the origins of ancient vampire bloodlines, the evolution of Lycan societies, and the consequences of hybrid emergence. By maintaining stylistic and thematic consistency with the films while leveraging the unique strengths of these mediums, the franchise could offer content that deepens fan engagement, encourages speculation, and supports broader transmedia storytelling. Speculative projections for Underworld 6 itself encompass a wide range of possibilities, each drawing on the narrative, thematic, and visual conventions established in the franchise. Central to these projections is the potential for Selene to confront unprecedented challenges arising from new hybrid factions, rogue vampire bloodlines, and the resurgence of political or mystical threats. Fan speculation often envisions complex moral dilemmas in which Selene must balance loyalty to her species, responsibility for emerging hybrid generations, and personal desires, echoing the ethical tension that has consistently driven her character development. Michael Corvin, if included, might serve as both a strategic ally and moral guide, embodying the ongoing theme of hybrid potential and the bridging of species divides. Such narrative trajectories allow Underworld 6 to explore evolving conceptions of identity, power, and morality, extending the franchise's exploration of the human condition through supernatural allegory. The narrative could also explore political upheaval within vampire and Lycan societies, highlighting factional conflicts, leadership disputes, and the ramifications of hybrid integration. Vampire elders, traditionally depicted as monolithic authorities, may face challenges from younger, ambitious factions seeking to modernize governance or reclaim lost power. Lycan communities, similarly, could grapple with internal dissent or the emergence of hybrid-led insurgencies. These political dynamics, intertwined with personal conflicts and supernatural threats, provide rich narrative terrain, enabling Underworld 6 to maintain the franchise's signature blend of action, intrigue, and moral complexity. Fan projections further emphasize the potential for the introduction of mystical or supernatural elements, such as ancient artifacts, forbidden powers, or legendary progenitors, each of which could amplify both stakes and thematic resonance. Speculative endings for Underworld 6 often envision scenarios in which the central characters must reconcile past conflicts with emerging threats, potentially establishing new frameworks of governance, alliances, or hybrid coexistence. Some narratives posit a climactic confrontation in which Selene and her allies confront rogue factions, balancing action-driven spectacle with moral and ethical reflection. Others propose more open-ended conclusions, leaving room for subsequent installments, spin-offs, or multimedia adaptations. These projected endings, while speculative, maintain continuity with the franchise's central concerns, emphasizing the interplay between individual agency, societal expectation, and the consequences of conflict. The franchise's enduring legacy is multifaceted, encompassing its influence on genre conventions, character archetypes, and audience expectations. Underworld has contributed to the normalization of complex female protagonists within action horror contexts, demonstrating that lead characters can be both physically powerful and morally nuanced. Its aesthetic, blending gothic visual motifs with kinetic action choreography, has inspired subsequent films, television series, and video games, establishing stylistic benchmarks for contemporary supernatural storytelling. The franchise's commitment to serialized mythology, intricate factional politics, and layered narrative arcs has fostered audience appreciation for continuity, depth, and thematic exploration, reinforcing the viability of long-term narrative investment in genre entertainment. Audience engagement remains a critical component of the franchise's cultural relevance. Fans have actively participated in world-building, character speculation, and narrative projection, leveraging social media, AI-generated content, and fan art to expand the universe creatively. This participatory culture, while occasionally blurring lines between speculation and official production, demonstrates the franchise's capacity to inspire imaginative engagement and sustained interest. Studios considering future installments may take note of fan preferences, theories, and creations, potentially integrating popular speculative concepts, character archetypes, or narrative threads into official productions to align with audience expectations while maintaining narrative integrity. In conclusion, Underworld 6, whether produced as a feature film, streaming series, or other media adaptation, holds the potential to continue the franchise's exploration of complex themes, layered characters, and high-stakes supernatural conflict. By drawing on established narrative and visual conventions while incorporating new elements such as hybrid evolution, mystical artifacts, and political intrigue, Underworld 6 could expand the universe while preserving continuity and satisfying fan anticipation. The franchise's enduring cultural impact, stylistic influence, and narrative richness ensure that any continuation would resonate with audiences, leveraging a legacy built on morality, identity, loyalty, and the consequences of conflict. While official confirmation of Underworld 6 remains absent, the franchise's persistent relevance, fan enthusiasm, and expansive narrative potential suggest that its story may continue in one form or another, whether through films, television, games, or other multimedia storytelling. Ultimately, the Underworld series exemplifies the capacity of a genre franchise to combine action, horror, gothic aesthetics, and serialized mythology into a cohesive, culturally resonant universe. Its influence on the portrayal of female protagonists, supernatural storytelling, and complex moral frameworks within action horror cinema underscores its significance in contemporary media. Whether through a speculative Underworld 6, transmedia expansions, or the continued engagement of a global fanbase, the universe created by Grevioux, Wiseman, and McBride remains a fertile ground for imaginative exploration, ethical reflection, and immersive entertainment. The narrative threads established over 2 decades of films provide both a foundation and a springboard for future storytelling, ensuring that the legacy of Underworld endures as both a cultural artifact and a continuing source of speculative excitement. Fans' anticipation for the next chapter, combined with the franchise's enduring appeal, positions Underworld 6 as a potential milestone in supernatural action storytelling, poised to blend spectacle, myth, and moral complexity in a way that honors its rich cinematic history while embracing new creative possibilities. The visual style of the Underworld franchise has always been one of its defining features, setting it apart from other action horror and supernatural films. From the very first film, the series established a dark, gothic aesthetic, characterized by shadowed urban landscapes, mist-shrouded forests, and imposing architectural elements that evoke both elegance and menace. This visual identity is tightly intertwined with the narrative, as the environments reinforce the mood, amplify suspense, and highlight the contrast between the supernatural beings inhabiting the world. In fan-conceived scenarios for Underworld 6, the visual style is often imagined to evolve further, integrating advanced digital effects, more elaborate set designs, and expansive world building while preserving the signature Gothic and atmospheric elements that define the franchise. Such aesthetics not only enhance immersion but also serve as a visual shorthand for the tension, conflict, and moral complexity that permeate the narrative. Cinematography has played a crucial role in maintaining the franchise's distinctive tone. Techniques such as high-contrast lighting, color desaturation, and dynamic camera angles contribute to the sense of otherworldliness and danger, emphasizing both the elegance of vampires and the raw power of Lycans. Close-up shots of characters during combat convey intensity and focus, while sweeping panoramic views of Gothic architecture and urban landscapes establish scale and context. In speculative Underworld 6 content, fans envision even more ambitious cinematography, including aerial sequences over nocturnal cities, subterranean layers rendered with meticulous attention to detail, and choreographed battle sequences that blend practical effects with CGI enhancements. These visual choices reinforce the narrative stakes and enhance audience engagement by making the world feel simultaneously real, expansive, and steeped in supernatural lore. Action choreography is another cornerstone of the franchise's identity. The films are known for their highly stylized combat sequences, which often blend martial arts techniques with the supernatural abilities of vampires and Lycans. Wire work, slow-motion sequences, and acrobatic maneuvers have been used to emphasize the agility, strength, and speed of these beings, while environmental interactions, such as using walls, ceilings, or furniture in combat, add creativity and realism. In fan-generated visions of Underworld 6, these sequences are imagined to become even more elaborate, incorporating larger group battles, hybrid abilities, and environmental hazards. Combat is conceptualized not merely as spectacle but as a narrative device, revealing character traits, power hierarchies, and moral choices in high-stakes scenarios. For example, a battle between Selene, Eve, and a hybrid antagonist could simultaneously explore themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and the consequences of immortality while showcasing innovative fight choreography. Comparisons with other vampire and werewolf media highlight Underworld's unique position within the genre. Unlike franchises such as Twilight, which focus on romance and adolescent drama, or The Vampire Diaries, which leans heavily on interpersonal relationships and episodic storytelling, Underworld emphasizes a darker, action-oriented narrative that fuses horror with cinematic spectacle. Films like Blade or Van Helsing share some similarities in terms of Gothic aesthetic and combat focus, but Underworld distinguishes itself through the depth of its mythology, the interplay of vampire and Lycan politics, and the narrative complexity surrounding immortal life and moral ambiguity. Fan discussions frequently explore these distinctions, analyzing how Underworld's focus on lineage, war, and ethical dilemmas provides a more mature and philosophically rich approach to supernatural storytelling. The cultural impact of the franchise is significant, extending beyond the films themselves. Underworld has inspired a devoted fan base, online communities, and a wide array of creative content, including fan fiction, art, and unofficial trailers. The anticipation surrounding Underworld 6 reflects this continued engagement, demonstrating how the franchise's mythology and aesthetic resonate with audiences long after the release of Blood Wars. Fans participate in detailed analyses of character motivations, speculate about plot directions, and create narrative expansions that enrich the collective understanding of the Underworld universe. Social media platforms, forums, and fan conventions serve as spaces for collaborative world building, where enthusiasts explore hypothetical scenarios, character arcs, and thematic developments. This active engagement not only sustains interest in the franchise but also shapes expectations for potential official continuations, illustrating the reciprocal relationship between creators and audience. Merchandising, cosplay, and gaming adaptations have also reinforced the franchise's cultural presence. Fans often recreate costumes inspired by Selene, Lucian, and other central characters, emphasizing the visual and stylistic appeal of the series. Video game adaptations, while limited, expand the franchise's universe by allowing players to engage with the characters' abilities and the conflict between vampires and Lycans in an interactive medium. These extensions contribute to the immersive quality of the franchise, reinforcing the narrative, aesthetic, and thematic elements that define Underworld. In the context of Underworld 6, fan engagement in these areas suggests a high level of expectation for both story quality and visual execution, highlighting the importance of maintaining continuity while exploring innovative directions. The franchise's thematic richness is also reflected in its visual and narrative cohesion. Gothic architecture, atmospheric lighting, and meticulously designed environments are not merely aesthetic choices, they reinforce the central motifs of power, legacy, and moral complexity. The interplay between light and shadow, for example, often mirrors the ethical ambiguity of characters, while the scale of the environments emphasizes the stakes of immortal conflict. Fan-generated conceptualizations of Underworld 6 often amplify these motifs, imagining a world that is simultaneously grandiose and intimate, where the personal struggles of characters are reflected in the physical spaces they inhabit. In sum, the Underworld franchise maintains a unique position within supernatural action horror media through its consistent aesthetic vision, sophisticated cinematography, innovative action choreography, and complex mythology. The anticipation for Underworld 6, fueled by both nostalgia and fan creativity, underscores the franchise's lasting impact and the potential for future narrative exploration. By integrating visual innovation with thematic depth and character-driven storytelling, Underworld has created a world that continues to captivate audiences, inspire speculation, and sustain cultural relevance more than 2 decades after its inception. The careful balance between Gothic atmosphere, supernatural action, and narrative complexity is central to the franchise's enduring appeal, and any continuation would need to honor these elements while exploring new storylines, characters, and thematic dimensions.